Hello guys, the Ukrainian intelligence possesses the internal data from Russia, according to which they must solve the Ukrainian question by 2026. And all because they don't have enough military or economic resources to continue this war for more than a year. And actually, it's quite visible both on the battlefields and from the inside of the Russian economy. They did not plan this war as a full-scale, long-term war. Putin thought this would be a blitzkrieg with the total success of the Russian soldiers. And right now, even with the support of the North Korean soldiers, he cannot control the borders of Russia. And now, when China's support, North Korean support, Iranian support turned out not to be enough, he desperately hopes that Trump will save Russian economy, lift sanctions, but I believe nothing can save Russia, especially chaotic Trump. So let's discuss why 2025 is so decisive for the defeat of Moscow. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the collapse and demilitarization of Russia and also Putin in The Hague, subscribe, we will discuss all that on the channel. So there are a lot of sources, not just from inside Ukraine, but also foreign intelligence analysis, and no, not the one from the signal groups. My dear American friends, let me know in the comments below, what do you think about these super secret classified conversations in the signal groups that became available to the world and no one resigned? But anyway, this is a data that was collected by Ukrainian intelligence, British intelligence, and there are serious Russian documents, economic, military documents, where they highlight they need to solve the Ukrainian question by 2026. Because they know their internal resources, and no matter how hard they try to pretend that everything goes according to the plan, there are very vivid and I'd say terminal symptoms both of the Russian army and the Russian economy. At the very beginning of Trump's term, there was a short period when Russian stock market started looking green. But this was just a brief reaction on these tectonic changes in the global politics. But the reality, the background of the Russian economy did not change. They still have one of the highest interest rates in the world. They lack money. The inflation is big. And even those hired Russian murderers, Russian soldiers, they report that they don't like the size of their salaries because of the inflation. Something that seemed more or less good for them back in 2022 is not like that in 2025. So this Russian economy that switched to the military production is booming, but it is a kind of exhaustion. It's just like this fever that they experience. And they have serious shortage of labor, but at the same time, some crucial for the Russian economy branches like the oil refinery industry, and thumbs up for that, is collapsing. Gazprom, the richest, the largest Russian corporation, reports losses. This was a symbol of Russia to a great extent. And by the way Gazprom feels, Russia feels in reality. And they can report fake numbers, they can report fake images to Trump and co, who can believe that. But the reality of Russia is very different, and that is why they state they cannot continue this war longer than 2026. And most importantly, they have serious troubles with the military equipment and with the soldiers. Yes, they do, because the North Korean soldiers are not the symbol of Russia's unending resources. Share and subscribe to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine. That is very important for the defeat of the evil. They needed dozens of thousands of soldiers in Kursk, in Belgorod, and they failed protecting Russian borders. Right now, Russia uses a lot of Iranian and North Korean missiles and drones. They do not have enough of their production. They have exhausted all Soviet crap that they amassed during these decades of the Cold War, and they used it during these first years of war, but they have nothing left. And even Russian military vloggers are laughing at the quality of the North Korean missiles, half of which explode while still on the Russian territory. And by the way, this is both fun and sad. Russians bomb their own regions like crazy because of negligence, because of the low quality of their aircraft, of their missiles and bombs, and perhaps of their pilot training. And this backup that constantly comes from countries like China and Iran can also end. For example, if these countries encounter some kind of internal problems, or they know they can be punished for the cooperation with Russia, they will stop doing it, just as China and India stopped buying Russian oil after sanctions appear. And here Putin will use all of his experience as a KGB agent to influence these very ignorant people like Trump, like Waltz, like Witkoff, like Hegseth. I am sorry, do you really think Russia did not notice this amazing, and I cannot say leak because it's not a leak, it's super unprofessional. Trust me, I, as an ordinary Ukrainian citizen, will not share something very important for me in a signal group. And here we see 100% classified secret information important for the security of the American armed forces shared in a group of 18 people. And Putin laughs on that. And he knows this is his sacred moment to trick Trump and the United States, to make them lift the sanctions and save Russian economy, give Russia more money to buy more poor North Korean soldiers. We should not allow this happen, because we are the closest ever in history for the defeat of this really evil empire. And trust me, this will be good, not just for Ukraine, not just for Europe or the United States. This will even be good for Russia. They always fake, they always show off, they try to persuade that Russia is so big. Russia is too big and Russian population is too small in comparison to the United States. This tells something too. And they already have serious problems with the conscription of people. We have fewer problems, even though we are many, many, many times smaller. And it resembles very much the period before the collapse of the Soviet Union, when the USSR was super exhausted militarily and economically because of the war in Afghanistan. And then another factors clicked, like oil prices, and anything can happen to prices on a planet after Donald Trump was elected the American president. So anything can happen, something very tiny that will lead to the complete collapse of the Russian economy, which is just a house of cards. You know, Trump likes speaking about cards, so all of the Russian economy, all of the Russian system is a house of cards. And I'm sure we will see it collapsing, because, you know, this kind of information that they have just a year left, and all of the efforts that they apply right now, terrorizing Ukraine, bombing Ukraine like crazy, pushing pro-Russian narratives to the White House, and so on. These are their desperate efforts. This is the agony of the very evil empire that will die out just as dinosaurs did. I know perhaps Elon Musk thinks that we Ukrainians are responsible for the extinctions of dinosaurs because he loves blaming Ukraine for anything. But no, and it's not Ukraine that will be responsible for the collapse of that Russian empire. It will be Russia and Putin, because they started the war they cannot win. And the day of the start of this war against Ukraine, or the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, will be marked in the history books as the start of the end of the Russian Empire. Trust me. Guys, share to my new channel. Subscribe to my new channel because I share more of civilian experience there. And right now there is a new questionnaire where I ask you to help me choose the topic for the next video. So do let me know what would you like to see on the channel. And subscribe to my X, Threads, Discord, Instagram. You will find the links in the description of this video. Check our merch shop for lots of good items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, but most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!